I want to say welcome once again to all of you that are leaders here, whether you're in the local US, local Cameroon, Liberia, Brazil, wherever you are in the world today. I want to say thank you for taking your time to come. We haven't done one of these meetings in a little while now. I know when we were first going through the pandemic, everything was virtual, so it made meetings like these very, very, very vital. And I just want to pause to say, God has been faithful, for us to be able to go back to in-person meetings, for us to be able to go back to where we can, in a sense, have some sense of normalcy in our ministries is nothing short of a miracle from the Lord. And so thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you do for not just your local church, but the global ministry. It's truly a privilege and it's truly an honor. For those that are not here, with this session is being recorded. For those that are here, I want to say thank you for your time. What's going to happen is I'm going to share a little bit about what I like to call 5 pillars of leadership. As leaders, I just had a meeting with a football team for our local high school, and if you're in this area, you're in this community here, in the only area we are. Last night there was a football game, and the football game was between two high schools. One high school is called Gaithersburg High School. The other one is called Northwest High School. And I get home last night after Bible study only to see there was breaking news, a news report that both of these schools got into this huge fight. The coaches were fighting. I mean, everybody was fighting. I mean, they canceled the game. It was 14-0 at some point, and this is American football that I'm talking about. And there was a big brawl where both teams fought, and I mean, the entire community was affected because of the poor character and the poor decisions of the leaders who were given this responsibility. So I was talking to the guys just now, the high school football team that I'm mentoring right now and serving, where we do a breakfast and every Saturday morning with them. And I was saying, everything rises and falls on the heads of the leader. The role that leaders play, the role that we as leaders play is vital to the communities that we serve. If I'm a leader, if I'm going to be a viable leader, if I'm going to be a successful leader, I have to understand that there's just certain things that I must do to maintain the quality of leadership that's required. And so this morning, I wanted us to kind of go over some of these things, and that I hopefully believe will be helpful to us all, because we're all leading in some capacity. And the first one I want to deal with is called honesty. Leadership is not just a title. Leadership is influence. Leadership is influence. Leadership is influence. And as leaders, one of the key areas of influence that's required is the area of honesty. It is said that honesty is the foundation of any and every good relationship. It's no surprise that this applies to the relationship of leaders, especially leaders that serve with their co-laborers. Can you imagine if our bishop, our presiding bishop, Bishop Johnson, or our diocesan bishop, Bishop Njoya, or Bishop Bella, or Bishop Kofe, and all of our bishops that are serving, imagine if they lacked honesty in their ministry. I'm going to ask a question. Would you be comfortable serving them? And this is an open question. Feel free to answer. Reverend Ben,
No,
you're
sir.
the
No,
diocesan
sir.
director.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
You said no, no, sir. Why not? Why not?
You can't trust an dishonest person.
Yeah. I mean, that's the easy way to put it. It's funny how honesty and trust are so tightly knitted together. Honesty and trust are so, if I can't trust you, if I, but let me say something though. Let me say something. Jesus was somebody. He was, Jesus is really interesting. He knew that Judas was a dishonest leader, yet he still gave him the opportunity to lead and serve. As a matter of fact, he told Judas, whatever you're about to do, go and do it quickly. So why do you think Jesus was able to, even though he knew that this guy Judas was a dishonest leader, why do you think Jesus still empowered him to serve at that level?
With the intention of giving him the ability, the intent, the time to repent. I mean, it was for repentance.
So even though he knew he was dishonest, even though he not like that, I like that. He was giving him an opportunity. Okay. And I believe as leaders, we have a season in life where God, even though we miss some, some people may miss it, or some, in leadership, there might be struggle. God still gives us an opportunity to turn away from dishonesty. And I think sometimes some may even take it for granted and say, well, just because I haven't been caught, it must mean that, it's no big deal. No, it's a big deal. Because at the end of the day, it catches up with you. At the end of the day, you wind up being exposed. At the end of the day, it shows negatively on the community or the organization that you're leading. And so honesty is important with those that you're serving with, those that you're co-laboring with, okay? Dishonesty creates a lack of trust between all parties, right? Leading to, and I highlighted here specifically, leading to miscommunication and misaligned priorities. Dishonesty leads to miscommunication and misaligned priorities. Now, it's important for us to be aligned with the vision of harvest. Harvest, our vision is a world where no one lives or dies without Christ, okay? Our mission is to win the lost at all costs and to make as many disciples of Christ as we possibly can in our generation. But if we're dishonest with what God has given us, if we're dishonest with the opportunity we've been given, if honesty is not a policy, then we won't be able to properly communicate the vision and the mission. And secondly, even if I communicate it, people are not going to want to hear it, because why? My lack of integrity or my dishonesty miscommunicates the message, right? Without honesty, often low quality, listen to this, without honesty, often low quality performance occurs because people do not trust one another and are not committed to hard working, hard labor. They're not committed to doing what it is they're called to do in ministry. If I don't trust you, I can't serve fully with you. If they don't trust me, nobody can serve with me. And I think that's important because, as a pastor, as a leader, as a servant leader, wherever you find yourself, you want the people that you are going to war with to be able to give their best. But if people can't trust you, they're not going to give their best. Okay? Very important. Very important. Trust is mutual. People are more likely to be honest with those who they feel to be honest with them. Okay? You can demonstrate honesty and build trust through being consistent. That is a key point. Consistency, the integrity of the leader, the consistency of the leader matters. Why? Because when people can trust you, people can give more towards what it is you're standing for. Okay? And what you say matters. Don't just say, do what I say, don't do what I do. That is dishonest right there. All right? Equally, you must be able to apply clear standards of conduct to everyone. There should be no, because this is my so-and-so, or that's my so-and-so, I give you this one side of me, but then behind the scenes, I give another side of me. That pillar of honesty is important. You'll be surprised by how much harder your teammates, your ministry workers, your people who will serve alongside you, you'll be quite surprised about how much harder they will work and how much more faith they will have in the processes being given and more readily willing to follow your request. I think for me, if I'm building a house, this is probably one of the key cornerstones and one of the key pillars that matter the most. When I'm building my team, when I'm building my ministry, when I'm doing what God has called me to do, honesty has to be at the top of the list, because quite frankly, if you're dishonest, God obviously can't entrust you with much, and then people can't follow you in the midst of what it is God has called you to do. So I thought I would start with that point, okay? That's pillar number one. Pillar number two, respect. 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 Very important. The reason why I follow, our leaders, our senior leaders, our presiding bishop, and many of our senior leaders is because I respect them. Okay, I don't know how many of you follow people you don't respect. I mean, anybody on this line follow people that they don't respect?
No, it's not possible.
It's
Why?
really not possible.
Why is it not possible?
because there's no confidence in them. And that which you don't trust, you can't follow.
Yeah. 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 Reverend Juliet, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, sometimes when it comes to respect also, sometimes you could really respect people because they also show respect to others. I would say so. It has a way to contaminate you in the right way.
Yeah, I like that word, contaminate. Sometimes it's given a negative connotation, but it's another way to say it is, it's it's infectious. Where, and I love how, even in the reading here, as is true with trust and honesty, respect is a two-way street and not a cul-de-sac. It's a two-way street. If my leader shows me respect, and I mean, like I said, I thank God for Bishop Johnson, man. I mean, we really are blessed. We've been blessed with a gem, all of our leaders, Bishop Corfay, all of our senior leaders, pastors. I mean, there's such a culture in Harvest that it promotes a sense of respect. And the leaders that we serve under, they don't go around demanding, you better respect me, you better respect me. But no, I don't know if I've never seen any of my pastors say that. I've never heard that before. Why? Because one, they're honest before God, but two, the way they carry themselves, the way they honor those that they're serving with, okay? The fact that they're willing to have conversations, they're willing to come to a level where, I mean, that's how Jesus functioned, for goodness sake. Jesus, being God, respected Peter, even though he knew that Peter was going to deny him 3 times, okay? Respect is a two-way street. As I sow the seed of honor and respect in the lives of my leaders, they will in like manner do the same towards me. And so I'm saying that to say, if you want those that are serving alongside you, those that are serving under you, those that are committed to what it is God is giving you to do in this ministry, then you and we have to have a culture of respect, a culture of honor, okay? Every ministry leader, no matter what their responsibility, should be shown respect and display it abundantly. Every ministry leader should be shown respect. Even if you're just there standing at the door as an usher, or you're just in the background, and I don't know, sometimes we think it's only the pastor who deserves respect. I beg to differ. It is not just about the pastor. Everybody that is a leader, it's not just about the youth leader. It's not just about the regional director, the diocesan director, blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. Everybody deserves equal amount of respect. Everybody deserves to be treated with high honor. Why? Because Paul said it, we consider no man according to the flesh. And if Faith or Pastor Juliet or Moran, or if you carry the same Jesus that I carry, then just how you honor the Jesus that I carry, I should honor the Jesus that you carry in like manner. Okay? Now, not only does respect contribute to ministry satisfaction, listen to this. It reduces stress, it creates fairness, it diminishes burnout, and subsequently increases team engagement. You want to see how a team can be sustained? Look at the culture of honor and respect that it carries. You want to see how a team will go beyond itself? Look at the culture of respect that it carries. The more there's a culture of respect, the more there's a culture of honor, there'll be a greater level of engagement and involvement, okay? Team members who respect one another feel like a part of the team. I'm gonna say that again. Team members who respect one another feel like a part of the team. This only increases the effort to build relationships, share ideas, and grow. Could it be that some people that are in our ministry teams that are where we're connected to, the reason why they don't feel comfortable sharing their ideas, and trust me, everybody on this, even on this call, those of you that don't, everybody here has something to contribute. In a little bit of time that we first started speaking, I heard Pastor Juliet and Susie talking, and Susie was telling a little bit about what we do here in Olney. And just in that small dialogue, in that small exchange, there was already some enlightenment given. There was already some excitement. There was already some insight. Why? Because Pastor Juliet respected Susie enough to honor her. Susie did likewise. And right there, creativity began to spark. You understand what I'm saying? That engagement began to take place. That is so key, y'all. If we're going to succeed in ministry, I cannot understate this point. Upholding the other pillars of good of good leadership, honesty, compassion, fair discipline, and open communication can help to show respect. Okay, if I'm honest, if I'm compassionate, if there's fair discipline and open communication, these things can definitely help to show respect. Okay, now if I'm seemingly sound like I'm rushing through this, I'm trying not to. But at the same time, we also want to do breakouts because I want us to have an exchange of Q&A. Okay, so please, if I'm going too fast, say, Pastor, slow down a little bit. Just so we can all be on the same page. Okay, and there's only 5 of these pillars I want to talk about today. Point number 3, compassion. I just talked about compassion in this meeting I had with these athletes. And I've never thought about it like this before. The thought the Spirit God put in my heart was, passion is about me. It's about what I do. Compassion is about what I do for others. I was like, wow, Spirit of God, you're the greatest teacher known to man. Passion is about what is about what drives me. Compassion is about what drives me to do for others. Okay? Have you ever been in a situation in which your feelings were dismissed, where they could have easily been affirmed? I mean, anybody on this call, can you relate where, somebody dismissed what you had to say because they thought it was insignificant, where you felt like, anybody want to share briefly what that felt like, what it looked like?
Yeah, it felt like I was being disrespected.
Why?
Because the person didn't take time to value my opinion or what I had to share.
Yeah. You said a word just now, and it's funny because it's right in the rest of this presentation. She said, I felt disrespected and I didn't feel valued. Clearly, whoever that individual was, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, they did not display compassion. I mean, for goodness sake, Jesus' ministry was tattooed with compassion. He had a passion for the things of the Father. He said, I must be about my Father's business. And then he said, when the 5,000 men and plus women and children, 20,000 people hungry, he says, I have compassion for these people. Okay? Sometimes I think we kind of even flip the switch and we do it the opposite way. We try to have passion for people. And then, if you understand what I'm saying, compassion is about others. Passion is about what we do, okay? So if you have, like Susie said, felt disrespected, felt, not appreciated, then you know what it is like to feel dismissed, undervalued, or misunderstood. When all it would have taken is some compassion. If that person would have paused for a few minutes and say, okay, Susie, what are you saying? What's happening? Tell me more about what it is you're trying to explain. I mean, sometimes, we're seeking the attention of the higher ups or our senior leaders, and we are undermining those who seemingly don't have titles. And I said it to these young people, and I'll say it to this group. Leadership is not about titles. It's about influence. And everybody on our ministry teams, everybody that we will encounter, they have influence. Even the 3rd grader who is on TikTok has influence. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? So never underestimate. I mean, so if you don't believe me, here's the story. I just talked about the feeding of the 5,000 plus with the women and children, right? There was a young boy who had, all he had was his lunch. He had a few fish and a few bread. That young boy had influence that day. He impacted over 20,000 people because whatever he had, he brought it. And Jesus didn't say, that's not enough. What is this little thing? The disciples did. Hey, Andrew, what is this small food? Philip, we don't even have enough. Jesus said, bring the boy, bring his meal. I'm going to value what he has. And so much so, 2,000 plus years later, we are still talking about a little boy who remains nameless. We're talking about what he was able to contribute to ministry. The point I'm making is compassion helps you to identify people who have influence in our midst, okay? When team members don't feel cared for by their leader, it's fairly easy for them to not want to give any effort or exert any effort. We have to keep in mind that everyone has a life outside of his and her his or her ministry. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? We have lives outside of ministry. Hello.
Amen. Amen.
Oh, but you are a pastor. No, no. Even this pastor has a life outside of quote unquote ministry. I have a wife. I have children. I have a business. I have things that I do outside of quote unquote ministry. You know, even though my life is committed to full-time ministry, I do have. So every now and then, if somebody comes and say, Pastor V, I didn't know you could do this. How, you know, sometimes even us as pastors, sometimes, you know, to be honest, we feel undervalued. I've seen Bishop be utterly disrespected by some people, but he's still able to hold the fort down. Why? Because he understands, he gets the point. He understands that, hey, I am valued, even if you don't value me. I am valued by the Lord. Does that make sense? I'm hoping it makes some kind of sense.
Yeah.
Somebody, are you with me this morning?
Perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, we have to get to the place where we don't just dismiss people because we think, oh, that's their job. They can do it. That's what they're supposed to do. No, have compassion. By expressing compassion for your teammates, they will no longer feel like just a number. They will feel like a valued individual. Okay? By asking somebody, how's your day? My young lady who's my administrative assistant, Naomi, we joke around a lot about this, okay? She said today, Pastor V, didn't ask me about my day. All right, Naomi, go sit down somewhere. But I understand, she's a college student, okay? She's working a job full time, she's trying. If I don't take time to acknowledge her day, and it's all about, you know, oh, did you do this assignment? Did you do that? After a while, it's like, okay, so what am I, just a paper clip? Am I just here to hold together your documentation? Am I just here to be your armor bearer? You know, some pastors got like 8 armor bearers and 2 security guards. Like, what's all that for? Are you loving on those people? Did Jesus ever have an armor bearer, Alfred? I'm just asking for a friend. You understand?
He had 12.
He had 12 armor bearers. I'm sure. Look, he took care of them to the point where even after he fed the 20,000, how many baskets were left? 12 baskets were left. That's compassion. He fed them. He met their needs. Okay, so it's important that people feel valued and appreciated. Compassion and understanding are what connects, and I highlighted those two because it's important that we understand it. Compassion and understanding are what connects us as human beings, despite our differences. Now, what's amazing about Harvest is we're a dynamic ministry. We're all over the globe, right? And some of us speak French, some of us speak Portuguese, some of us speak Spanish. We're from different countries, different nations. And so I think even as an international team, you know, we need to be more intentional. One of the things one of the burdens that I have, you know, leading this international team is the fact that I want us to get to the place where we're not just ministry leaders, we're a family. But we understand that we're family. Okay, we've already been made a family, but that we understand that we're family. And so we might have to go the extra mile. This morning we got a few you want to call. You know, it would be great to have 1,000 of us on this call, but there's a few of us. That's a start. We're a family. That is a start. We're a family. And I've got to be, maybe folks can't make it because they had other events. I can't now sit on the neck and say, oh, you don't care about this ministry because you didn't make it. What's going on in their world? Why couldn't they make it? I should be able to pick up the phone after this call and be able to say, bro, are you okay? How's your family? Look, those are the things that will make ministry worthwhile and even more effective if we can be compassionate and exercise understanding, okay? Because we're all human beings and we all have things happening in a world that is, you know, definitely getting tougher and tougher by the minute, okay? We care more about people who show that they care about us. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care, okay? That's a mantra I live by. I think John Maxwell coined the term. That is something that I live by. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And you show care by investing your time, guidance, providing guidance, you know, taking people's feelings into account, understanding that people are human beings and they're having a human experience. Okay? That's pillar number 3. Pillar number 4. Somebody in your preacher voice say clear expectation. Clear expectation. Clear expectations. Clear expectations. Look, that's your preacher voice, Reverend Ben. I hear you. Seriously, you know, we lead teams, and then you know, the more teams you lead, the more responsibilities you have. Sometimes, and I'm telling you this out of experience, this is something I experience quite often, and sometimes, you know, it gets frustrating where there are so many expectations from your leaders for you. Okay, they want to see ministry succeed. They want to see, and you know, if you've ever served alongside Bishop Johnson in any capacity, and you really, you know, you've had the opportunity to serve under him and lead, you know, one of the things he's not into the details. He's not into the details. He's into the outcome. Okay, he's a numbers kind of leader. He wants to see results, and so it really puts quote unquote pressure on you who serve him. Okay, who serve. When I say serve and serve under his leadership in this ministry, obviously we're all being led by the Lord. And if I'm not more intentional about providing I mean, come on, our vision statement is clear. Envision a world where no one lives or dies without Christ. Those are the expectations given by the Lord. It is quite clear. There's no mud in there. It's not, oh, I'm not too sure. No, it is clear. Wherever you are, harvester, a world where no one lives or dies without Christ. Whatever that means in terms of the details, you work on those small, minute details. But the expectation is a world where no one lives or dies without Christ. Win the loss at all costs and make as many disciples of Christ as you possibly can. Okay? And now, even within that expectation, even within that, we all will make mistakes. I know I make mistakes quite a bit, okay? I'll be the first one to tell you I don't always get it together all the time, okay? I try to minimize the losses and try to increase the gain, but there are times where I miss it. Even though the expectations were clear, even though the instructions were clear, often it can be a little challenging. Why? Because life happens, okay? We're human, it is clear. But that's not an excuse as a leader. I cannot make an excuse. I cannot just accept it like, oh, well, you know, things happen. No, we are still expecting results. And if you ask Reverend Ben for the international team, I'm really putting the pressure on all of us, because at the end of the year or come February, when we end up in Liberia for this general conference, these leaders are expecting to hear what's going on with our youth ministry, what's going on with our young adult ministries, what's happening. They're not trying to hear an excuse. Oh, you know, I can no longer use the COVID excuse, by the way. A lot of us were hiding behind COVID. Oh, you know, it's COVID. Oh, you know, it's COVID. Oh, you know, no, we don't have that again. No. We are in person. We are back to quote unquote normal in a sense. As a matter of fact, we have more opportunities now to serve than we've ever had. It's incumbent upon us that we push and we don't take no for an answer. And so clear expectations. Setting clear expectation for standards of behavior, it will greatly reduce any confusion and even minimize error. If we know what we have in play, we do what we have to do. Okay? There's something called SOPs, or standard operating procedures. Okay? Does your team have an SOP? As a ministry leader, do you have SOPs? Do you function on a calendar? Do you use your calendar? Do you have a to-do list? Okay. These were things, to be honest, that, and really, I mean, I used to do it kind of here and there, but when the pandemic hit, I had to begin to manage my time even better. I had to start to use all of the different applications and the softwares and the Google Docs and all these spreadsheets and things more. Why? Because now the rubber met the road and things were required of me. Okay. For the entire time during COVID, I mean, we were learning. We literally have a meeting down here at Oli. We have what's called a systemization of processes meeting. Okay, an SOP meeting, literally, where every Thursday we meet a couple of the pastors, Pastor Mema, Pastor Peabody, myself, a couple of the other leaders, the administrative assistant. We get together and we're creating standards of operation for the church, for our ministries. Why? Because well after we are gone, and let me tell y'all something, Pastor Juliet, you said it earlier, and I think I'm bold to say it here. In 10 years, none of us will be youth leaders. At least I don't expect to be doing this in 10 years. First of all, in 10 years, I'll be well off in my advanced year. I didn't say old, Juliet. I said I will be advanced. Even those of you that think, oh, I'm so young, in 10 years, you'll be more advanced. So when you set clear expectations now, the generation that's behind you can grab it, run with it, and take it to yet another level. They can stand on your shoulders and take the ministry to another level. They shouldn't have to come back. And to be honest, that is my pet peeve with our African leaders now. A lot of our African countries, we don't lack resources. My goodness, Africa is the haven for resources. The cars that we drive, the cell phones that we use, the technologies. What do you think they get the raw material from? They get it from Africa. But because our leaders have failed to create systems, provide clear expectations, establish things that the next generation can pick up, it's like every time a president gets there, we're starting all over again. And we as the church cannot live like that. We cannot minister like that. We cannot function like that. We have to be on board creating these clear expectations, okay? Because we want to minimize error and maximize success, okay? You cannot expect anyone to live up to vague instruction. And I'm preaching to the choir. I'm talking to myself right now, okay? It's equally as important to show no favoritism, to be consistent, and to hold everyone accountable to the same standard. Everyone on this call, if you are on this call, you are being held accountable to the standards of the leadership of Bishop Johnson and your diocesan leaders, okay? Oh, not because I'm Bishop nephew or I'm Bishop's niece or that's my uncle. It does not matter. We're serving one king. And at the end of the day, look, Jesus says, either well done, my good and faithful servant, or depart from me, you worker of iniquity. That's what's going to be there. He's not going to say, oh, because you are my favorite pastor, you're my favorite leader. No, everybody has clear instruction. Everybody has to give forth an account for what they do, okay? Treating everyone equally creates no space for resentment and wastes no time on further explanation down the road. Very important. By making known what is expected, and because I'm preaching to the choir and I'm preaching to all of us here, we have to make known what is expected of each team member, and I have to treat him or her the same when expectations are not met. So in essence, if we set some expectations as leaders, okay? So for instance, I'll use this leadership conference or leadership conversation as an example. We set the expectation. You are supposed to be here at a certain time. Let's say you're supposed to be here at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 1 o'clock General GMT, 2 p.m. What time. And I see some leaders trickling in. Now I have to be compassionate, right? I have to be compassionate. Maybe some of the leaders had events they had to do. Maybe some things had to happen. But at the same time, if you call yourself a leader, I have to hold you accountable. Why are you here late? Why did you come late? Okay, what happened? It's not so that I can make you feel less than who you are, but it's so that we can set a standard. I think we have to get to the place where ministry becomes even more important than our jobs that pay the bill. Why is that important? Because at the end of the day, you're going to give an account to Jesus, not to your bishop, not to your pastor, to Jesus, who gave you 24 hours on your clock, who gave you 7 days a week, who gave you 30 days a month, who gave you 12 months, and so on and so forth, and blah, blah, blah. So it's important that we do what is expected once it is made clear. Now, if it's not clear, I get it. Okay, and that's the struggle that a lot of us have. If it's not clear, I get it. Maybe we didn't quite specify. But once you know what you're supposed to do it as unto the Lord. Okay? Why? It sets the tone for a reasonable and an impartial ministry and workplace. We want to set the right tone, okay? I see a lot of success in ministry in Liberia through Reverend JC and them at the cathedral. I hear the news. We see what's happening. I don't think it's happening by accident. I'm sure that these leaders are setting the right tone. I thank God for the leadership teams that we have here in Olney. We're doing our best to set the right tone. Because once again, we are setting a standard so when the generation that comes after us comes to take the baton, they don't have something that's dirty, muddy, and unclear. I'm hoping that makes some sense, okay? And then my very last point, and then we'll possibly go into the breakout, is intentional listening. Oh, somebody say intentional listening. It is not I hear you. You know, I hear you and intentional listening are two different things. Just because you heard me doesn't mean you're listening to what I'm saying. Okay. And I know one of my pet peeves with Zoom, one of the reasons why I don't really like Zoom as much as I used to is because I can be in a meeting, I can hear what's being said in the meeting, but I'm not listening to what is being said in the meeting. And then when it's time to go and execute, I'm still, oh, well, what did you say? I'm
that way. When you come to a gathering like this, or you're talking to your leaders, or you are leading a discussion and you have other people listening to you, I would hope that intentional listening is a part of the environment. Okay. Now, often we listen for the purpose of talking. You know, a lot of us like to talk. We like to talk. I can't wait to respond. No. It's not always about your response in word. It's about your response in doing what you heard. Or let me say that again. I believe that's the Spirit of God. It's not about your response to what you heard. It's about your response about doing what you heard. Don't just hear it, do it. It's the doer of the word that is blessed. We are so busy, listen, preparing our response that we don't fully hear, let alone process what we are responding to. Okay? More times than not, open communication has to do with listening and not speaking. If you're not listening with an open mind, you aren't listening at all. Let me say that again. If you are not listening with an open mind, you are not listening at all. It becomes easy to lose sight of problems that are happening right under your nose. Things are happening and you're not aware because you can't wait to respond rather than listen. When people come to you and say, Pastor, oh, brother so-and-so, sister so-and-so, this is what's going on. Don't be so quick to respond and give an answer. Take time to listen. Jesus sitting at the well with a woman who had 5 lovers and one who wasn't her husband. Huh? Can you imagine if Jesus just went off ranting about the kingdom of God and he had just begun to say all the things that he know he could say? He would have never given time to hear this lady's heart and then be able to respond intentionally, speaking to the issue directly, in so doing, empowering her to do better. And then, of course, ultimately, this lady became one of the greatest evangelists of her time. Are you hearing me? This lady became one of the greatest evangelists of her time. Okay, the entire village came out to hear Jesus because this woman's testimony spoke volumes. Are you hearing me? Okay.
You gotta listen. You gotta listen. You gotta listen. You got to listen, people. I've got to listen. If I talk to you, I'm talking to me. I can't just talk. I have to listen. Okay. Now, if you aren't aware of any issues, you certainly cannot resolve them. By listening thoughtfully, you will be privy to problems, or you understand problems you may have otherwise may not know about. Better yet, by knowing what is regularly transpiring, you will begin to understand what motivates your employees, your ministry workers, your leaders, and you can anticipate and avoid problems before they occur. Always remember that listening thoughtfully with an open mind requires time and intention. Additionally, when you listen and communicate openly, you create room for a consistent dialogue, which only helps to foster our very first pillar, honesty, and then, of course, hard work. Okay? Really, if I can learn to be better listeners, I think there's a book I will post. I will send you all the title of the book. I think it's called "Why Don't We Communicate Better?" I think it's the title of the book. But that book is really focused on listening skills. I think we have a teacher on this called professional teacher. I think Moran. She teaches here at the school that's on our campus. And I'm sure as a teacher, she has to be very intentional on how well she's listening if she's going to get the answers to her students' problems and vice versa. They have to listen to her teaching in order to understand what she's saying. Okay. All right. So with that being said, in conclusion, remember to be honest. Remember, as leaders, we have to show respect. Remember, we have to learn how to express greater compassion. Remember, you have to learn how to set clear expectations and be present and communicate openly. And then you will get back so much more than you can even imagine. This is something that I've tested in so many occasions, and I've seen the outcome. Being a leader, and let me say this to every one of you, just coming on this call is a point to this point. Being a leader is not always easy. Giving up your time, giving up your effort, giving up your energy. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning with my wife preparing breakfast to go and serve our local high school as an outreach opportunity. And these young men, 40 of them sat there this morning, ate their bellies full, they enjoyed themselves, and we were able to preach the gospel to them. Are you hearing me? Okay? Being a leader is not easy when you have to sacrifice time, treasure, talent. But the reward for me and for you is that Jesus gets the glory. People's lives are being impacted, and I'm fulfilling his divine purpose for me. Okay? If you follow these 5 simple pillars of good leadership, you can begin building a stronger organizational culture, which not only makes for an enjoyable environment. You see, youth ministry, young adult ministry does not have to be boring. It doesn't have to be strenuous. You already got a 9-to-5 job, or you're a student in school, and you already got enough stress there. Then you come and add the compounding effect of ministry. If you don't exercise these 5 pillars that I mentioned, you will find it even becoming even more difficult. Okay? But these things will make your ministry environment enjoyable, and it will contribute greatly to your success. You too, every one of you on this call, you can be an exception to the norm. Okay? And honestly, this is what makes us Team Harvest.